We are here to pave the way to help Atlanta residents become more compassionate and healthy members of society, so together we may one day reduce the cycle of trauma. Last Tuesday, our sponsor Liliana Bakhtiari introduced a bill to decriminalize all entheogens in the city of Atlanta. This is our chance to make a real positive change for our community. Entheogens are a part of nature, and nature is sacred.
As a woman of color, I was plagued not only with the dysfunction of my family, but the dysfunction of my community. I inherited the fear and the conditionings from generations of traumatized and depressed family members who were never afforded the opportunity to address and repair all of the ways that they have suffered. I sat with a woman who called herself a shaman. She gave me a cup that looked like tea but tasted horrible. She saw that I was terrified, so she sat in front of me and held my hand and whispered to me, "You are safe here, and it's time for you to heal." It was a miracle for me. I could now look at myself as a mother. The first time I felt worthy of a quality of life and capable of creating it myself. And it is my wish that more people of color experience this. And I'm humbly indebted to those beautiful indigenous people of Brazil and Peru for sharing their traditional way of healing with me.
I spent 25 years in a high-performance IT tech career, but nothing could have steadied me for the deep, dark depression that struck me in 2008. A depression triggered by an abusive relationship that left me physically traumatized and completely financially depleted. As I was plummeting from this experience, the trauma of sexual abuse that occurred during my childhood began to surface. I looked like a mere shadow of a person I once knew. And then I found ayahuasca. And what I experienced in one ceremony went deeper than years of therapy.
These traditional medicines journey us back home to who we've always been, back home to our sense of connection with God, with something outside of ourselves that truly English words can't explain.
I listened to my doctor and I got no benefits, only dangerous side effects from drugs. In contrast, I've experienced no side effects from psilocybin therapy, and I now feel better than I ever have in my life.
With this being a relatively new field of research, it's incredible how rich the scientific literature is with evidence that these natural substances are effective treatments for these various diseases of the mind. You have the power to allow this community equitable access to safe, natural, scientifically backed, transformative substances, and to place Atlanta at the forefront of a mental health revolution.
In 1988, I was working a wreck between a station wagon and a dump truck. Both vehicles were on fire. The truck driver was burning alive as we pulled him out of the truck. His nose and ears already melted off and we dragged him away from the fire. I then went to rescue people in the station wagon, only to find both front passengers were dead. I was able to pull the door open. I grabbed a little girl who was approximately 2 years old out of the car. She was missing her nose and had major injuries. She had grabbed with both hands on my shirt and stared directly into my eyes. She was choking her own blood, and with every breath, 2 streams of blood would shoot out of her hole where the nose was supposed to be. She died right there in my arms, holding me tightly. I was never able to fully recover from the pain of this experience. It haunted me. Last year, I was introduced by my psychologist after he had exhausted all orthodox methods to heal my trauma to a natural therapist who was able to give me magic mushrooms. I had never tried anything like this. I had very little knowledge about what they were, but I was desperate for any sort of alternative medicine that would save my life. I tried everything, and nothing worked before. And to my disbelief, the mushrooms cured me. I was able to go back in time around the mushrooms and work through my traumas, allow me to interact with children that died in my arms. I additionally was able to find traumas that I blocked and to resolve them too.
I had already been on SSRIs for years to deal with the grief and uncertainty of caring for someone with long-term illness. When my father finally passed, I found myself overwhelmed. My psychiatrist suggested raising my SSRI dose, but the change in medication precipitated an allergic reaction. I had been following the research on microdosing for years. I'd seen seminars on the subject when I was working as a research assistant at Mount Sinai System Therapeutics Department. I could take this traditional medicine on my own terms without fear of withdrawal.
I was living on the streets, and I was selling myself I've done anything and everything you can think of to get clean. I found a church in Florida that worked with the sacrament known as ayahuasca. Once I hung up the phone, I proceeded to pour all my methadone down the sink. I went through 10 days of absolute hell. I flew to Florida and I had my ceremonies. And I won't go into too many details about that experience, but I will tell you I've been clean and sober ever since.
A single arrest affects workplaces and businesses. A single arrest impacts the family of those imprisoned. A single arrest can spiral someone into deeper debt and homelessness.
Right here in our backyard, there's medical research being done with the compounds found in these very special sacramental plants and mushrooms.
To my knowledge, as described in the bill before you, the use of entheogens as sacrament for a bona fide religious purpose has been federally legal since the Religious Freedom and Restoration Act of 1993, and this has been affirmed in subsequent court rulings so long as the use was religious in nature and so long as the sacrament was used in a way that promoted peace and safety.
I share this vision with decriminalized nature of communities free from stigma and legal or corporate gatekeepers to species we can grow in our backyards. We are nature, and we want what nature wants.